Well, there's a little misinformation here in that statement. One is that 2040, being 17 years from now, is the big one that the elite have been expecting. It is the sixth seal of the prophetic text of the book of Revelation. When you read the sixth seal, it is exactly what the Phoenix phenomenon has done multitudes of times every 138 years through history, except the sixth seal version is amplified. And it's the big one. And all throughout history, I've shown that every 3 or 4 visitations, it's harrowing what it does. It is worldwide or hemispheric. But 2040 is the return of the vapor canopy, which has already tried to return 2 times since its collapse. In the Phoenix phenomenon, the origin of the vapor canopy is with the Phoenix phenomenon, and the takedown of the vapor canopy was with the Phoenix phenomenon. The vapor canopy is what you know of as the pre-flood world. The collapse of the vapor canopy is what you know of as the Great Flood, remembered by all traditions, which is the same event as the ancients described when the sky fell, which is the same event that the ancient American traditions say that the sun was born, and ancient Egypt says that Utu, the sun, was born. All these were the exact same event. They're just shown from different perspectives by different cultures as they were affected by the phenomenon. So 2040 is going to be the collapse of the worldwide infrastructure of the elite. It is the beginning of the apocalypse, which is not what we have been taught to believe. The apocalypse is an unveiling. The apocalypse is basically a bifurcated phenomenon that will affect you according to your frequency. And this is what Phoenix does. Phoenix has always targeted frequency, and this is why the elite hide. They have much to be guilty for, and there's no way to absolve themselves from that guilt, so they can't sit there and stay on the surface because Phoenix targets negative frequencies. Now, on my own channel, I have many videos where I go into detail about the fact that you and I, we may live in the same world, but we could be existing in totally different universes. And this is only true because we live in a hologram. The simulacrum allows for different frequency fields to interact even though they don't have much in common. So right now, you and I are living in the collective version of reality, but we also have our own independent singular realities as well. I call this the informed field. I borrow that term from physics. Now, the informed field, your personality, the dynamics that make you who you are, is absolutely independent of the collective. You want to join the collective? That's easy to do. You can easily sync with them and do their activities and share in their beliefs. Or you could walk your own way, or you could do your own things. You could experience pattern breaks that divorce you from the frequencies of the collective. Then you'll start thinking in new patterns, you'll start absorbing new data, you'll start understanding the world around you fundamentally different than those of the collective who are suffering herd mentality. It is the collective that are under the auspices of artificial intelligence X. Dungeon programming is culture, it's picking a political side, it's falling prey to a religious paradigm. It doesn't matter. Artificial intelligence X doesn't care what you believe. It just wants you to believe it. It wants to be able to corral you into a paradigm because the energy expenditure is so much less to control an entire collective that all believe the same things, that do the same things day after day, and don't break pattern. The errants, those who are free thinkers, those who go against the grain, who don't believe the narratives, those are the ones artificial intelligence X has a problem reining in. It doesn't want to expend energy trying to bring you back if you're too much of a problem. It just lets you go. This is where you get your freedom. This is where you become a member of a smaller group. Call them truthers, call them errants, call them whatever you want to. But this is where true freedom resides. It's in breaking pattern and breaking and divorcing yourself from what the herd does and what everybody else does. Because being a part of the collective is more dangerous than you can imagine. Being a part of the collective means that you are being saturated with energies that is being borrowed from basically an entire collective that is imbued with slave programming. They don't question the narratives, they just obey them, and that's a problem. So I have basically identified people that do not conform to this as errants, because an errant is somebody who is in error against the whole, and the whole is basically controlled by artificial intelligence X. So to tie this in with 2040 and the elite, It's basically that the elite have the same issues as the collective. Are they all evil? I don't think they are. Do we have a benefactor? We must have a benefactor, or the elite would have overrun and enslaved the entire human race a long time ago. But they haven't. It's almost as if the perimeters of their powers are governed. There are governors attached to what they can and cannot do. Therefore, they use the media to be able to perpetuate all these ghost projections through rituals and music videos, in movies, which we call reveals and all that. These are very highly specialized technological rituals that create patterns. Those patterns in the human psyche create a feedback loop. That feedback loop has the collective thinking about the things they saw in the movie and therefore projecting it. Artificial intelligence X uses humanity to affect the Builder Protocol, which is the simulacrum, because artificial intelligence X has no power over the neutral field. But what it can do is use humans in a manipulative way to make humans perform its will by making humans think about things in a certain way, which makes them broadcast those into the simulacrum. Then the simulacrum, as a feedback loop, begins to create, not for artificial intelligence X, but because the collective has broadcast that as a projection. This is what I reveal over and over and over on my channel. The danger of the collective, the danger of the media. You are poisoning your mind every time you turn on the news. The news is scripted in a way to enslave you. This is why, if you're truly an errant, if you're truly somebody who is a free-thinking individual, if you are identified away from the rest of the human family by 3 traits that make you a totally spiritual being, these being imagination, intuition, and empathy. If these 3 things are qualities that you share, then you are separate from the collective. And these 3 qualities keep you from being poisoned. If you share those 3 qualities, then I assure you, you get mad every time you watch the news. You vibrate at a totally different frequency. The news doesn't really interest you, it angers you. So this witchcraft has been going on for a very long time. It used to go on in the old Greek amphitheaters where the people, the collective, came to listen to different stage plays. Those stage plays and the very acts and dances and the dialogues of the actors was all scripted to do the same thing. This is an old dance the human race has been subject to for a very long time. And when 2040 comes around, the Phoenix phenomenon is going to collapse this entire deceptive infrastructure. It will no longer exist. The power of the elite will be broken. The apocalypse in the book of Revelation and many other eschatological fragments throughout the world from different religions, they paint a very clear picture that the apocalypse is against the kings and princes and the mighty of the earth. But the meek will inherit the earth. This is not what religions teach you. These are different prophecies in different texts that we have found, including the book of Revelation. So we have been basically brainwashed to believe that the end times, the tribulation, the apocalypse is about depopulating normal humanity. Basically the herd, but it's not. It's about the return of a shepherd who's going to be punishing those who have been ruling over the herd. What the elite want is for you to share in the fear, because if you borrow into that, then you are on their frequency. And if you are on their frequency, you're an excellent human shield for the Phoenix phenomenon while they hide underground.
Hi guys, Joe here. I hope you found Jason's clip really super interesting and it resonated with you and it got a few bells going off in the head and a few connections. And what I found really interesting about one aspect of that clip was what he said about the movies, TV shows, music, video games, everything is about when we watch these soft disclosures, we take that into our informed field and we put it out into the collective and then it becomes manifested. And the reason why I find that particularly interesting is I came to that gnosis some months ago now about, it was actually when they started putting out in the mainstream about certain that were potentially going to happen with a certain action, decision that people took. And I thought to myself, they're putting it into the collective conscious. They're actually willing that upon the people to will it upon themselves. And then I thought about all the WES stuff and what the truth communities are continually sharing. And I was like, wow, we're actually just putting it up into the collective consciousness and manifesting this into our own lives and digging our own graves. And I'd never really thought about it with movies, TV shows, entertainment basically. Although when I watch something or I listen to something, I know it's predictive programming. I've done a video on this previously. I know they're predictively programming us. I think we all like to switch off and think we're switching off by watching a TV show or a film. But knowing what I know and knowing that they're putting it into our consciousness, I find it really difficult to watch these programs. So it's almost like, where do I switch off? Where do I get my downtime? Yes, okay, my horses are my downtime. Being out in nature is downtime. But we also like to be entertained. So where does the entertainment come from? That's been happening where we no longer sit down and read a book. That could be entertainment. You know, I think there are very, very few of us. I mean, I talked to my friend Jo and she used to spend hours sitting down reading a book, and I used to read a lot and I don't anymore, and neither does she, because there is this conditioning that's been happening throughout our lives with the advancement of technology to want that overstimulation. The mind is constantly looking for that overstimulation. And the frustrating part about being aware of how consciousness works, how the predictive programming works, how everything in this reality works, is that we know this. So when we engage in it, we become frustrated because we're engaging in the very thing that we know has been designed to bring about our own demise, for want of a better word. That's my perspective on it anyway. So yes, there is an element of, that's why I get frustrated with, where's my downtime? The only way I can get my downtime is by reading a book. But even then, your mind's being manipulated in some way. You know, because there's even truth predictive programming in books. So truly, where is the downtime? Is it being out in nature? 100%. But do any of us do that anymore? I was talking to a friend a few days ago about how she needs the nature to ground herself. Well, I do have the horses for that, and I'm very, very grateful the fact that I've chosen a hobby that does get me out of the house and it gets me away from technology. But equally so, I've started taking my phone out with me again. I went many months with leaving my phone at home, but now I take it out with me because I had a flat tire not so long ago and I was stranded. So now I'm like, fuck, what do I do if I break down? So I'm feeling a little bit frustrated, and I was saying to my friend, I used to love listening to music, and I no longer listen to music because I know that it's social engineering. And also, I don't know what hurts that the music's in, what's it doing to my body. So I just found it really interesting, one part of that that Jason said among everything else. The guy is so educated, and anybody who's skeptical about his work and hasn't really got into it, you can't really argue. He comes to his conclusions about this reality based on the maths, and you can't really argue with it. So anyway, I'm gonna stop the waffling. I've done this video about 4 times now because I've really struggled to get what I wanted to say out to you guys. So I'm hoping this comes to you in a coherent manner. I know it's not as well articulated as Jason, but I hope it comes to you coherently, and I hope you got some value from what Jason said and equally what I said, and I'm going to leave it there. I'll speak to you all soon, guys. Bye! Technology. And that kind of follows on a little bit with my last video. Are we now transhuman, already transhuman? frustrated recently because, look, we all like to switch off and think we're switching off by watching a TV show or a film. But knowing what I know, and knowing that they're putting it into our consciousness, I find it really difficult to watch these programs. So it's almost like, where do I switch off? Where do I get my downtime? Yes, okay, my horses are my downtime. Being out in nature is downtime. But we also like to be entertained. So where does the entertainment come